Oh, look who's got to join us. Hi.
Hi, Margot.
All right, guys. So here we are. -1 little baby sleeping in her room.
-1 plus 1.
Yeah. So I thought we would just share our birth story. I know some of you have been curious and wanting to know about it. So yeah. So my due date was on
August 24th, 2020.
August 24th. I actually thought I was going to be late because my mom was very late with both me and my sister was late with like all of her kids. So I did not think that I was going to go into labor before my due date at all. Like, we weren't prepared for it. I mean, we were prepared, but we weren't like...
No, we weren't. We definitely weren't on time with everything that we wanted to have done before our little bundle of joy arrived.
Yeah. We had like the important stuff done, but... Anyways, so August 23rd comes along and I'm sitting on the couch doing some work and I'm like, oh, babe, I think I had 2 contractions. Yeah.
Well, you had been having Braxton Hicks contractions.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, that definitely felt different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Speak
then
of the devil.
he's fussing. Okay. So anyways, I said, babe, I think I had 2 contractions, and then what did you do?
I like went into overdrive. I was like cleaning the house and like I had some work things that I needed to get done, and I was like, slacking my boss and slacking our HR person, saying I think we're going into labor, and then like running around and cleaning and like packing and just
and
making
looking
sure,
at me with these like crazy
like,
eyes,
okay?
and I'm
Are
just
okay?
like, everything's fine. Like I'm just working away. So I basically was in labor at home from 8:30 p.m. until about like 1 o'clock that night. We decided to go to the hospital because I had just progressed and I was like 5 minutes apart consistently. Yeah. So I'm gonna go check on him. Okay. So this is life. He woke up. This is
Margot, come.
This is little Montana.
Elliot Stevens.
Montana Elliot Stevens. So anyways, we were going to the hospital. I was in labor, but it wasn't like excruciatingly painful yet. And Jason was driving like a maniac. And I think
I wasn't driving like a maniac.
You blew through like 3 stops.
Yeah, because I didn't want to stop because you were like, it hurts when I stop.
Yeah, because he was just like slamming on the brake while I'm having the contraction. I'm like, there's nothing worse than that feeling. Yeah. So anyways, basically we got to the hospital. With COVID and everything, is like, which entrance is open? They're all closed. And we finally found the entrance. And it's so funny how when you see like movies, like we watched Seinfeld recently and someone was in labor, and like we watched
Father of the Bride 2.
Father of the Bride 2, where they're
very calmly
both in labor.
I think it's time.
No, it was like really dramatic.
No, when she was like, we need to go to the hospital, she was like, I think it's time. She had her suitcase.
Oh yeah, that was like the 2nd or 3rd time.
You haven't even labored at all.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like in the movies, they're like, I'm going into labor, or like, I'm having a baby now, and everything is just like so panicked and so rushed and like
so quick. It's just like, oh, I'm having a baby now.
But then like their water hasn't even broken, and it's just really different in real life. But then in the movies, they get to the hospital and they're like, everyone's like, she's in labor! Get this
Somebody
woman
get this
to
woman a wheelchair!
And then like she's in the wheelchair and then she's breathing. I'm 5 minutes apart! And then like the nurses are like rushing them, running down the hallways like with them in a gurney and everything. And let's just say like that whole expectation that I had for there to be like some sense of urgency was like totally not even there. Like we got there and there was just like one lady at a desk, no sense of urgency whatsoever.
And also like not a friendly person.
Yeah, she was not very
like
nice.
Didn't look at us and smile. I know it's COVID and things are a little weird for hospitals, but she was just like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, and like making
I'll be having a baby, man.
Yeah, making sure I was in labor and stuff, and then we waited for like 5 minutes before she even called the nurse to come get us. I was like, my gosh, this is taking forever. So we get to triage. Doctor examines me. Super nice guy. Says, yeah, you're definitely in labor. We'll get you to a room. And then it took like 3 hours or something.
Yeah.
Before we got into it, but it was like 4:30 a.m. before we got to our room. And apparently that was because our nurse was like on call and she lived like an hour away. And so they had to call her to come in.
It was cool though, because we got like one nurse, or we had like, it's one nurse dedicated to each room. So it's like, we didn't have to deal with all of these nurses coming through. I think we just had 2 primary nurses the whole time.
Yeah.
That was nice, but not nice that we had to wait around for our in-room nurse.
Yeah, and by that time it was like contractions were starting to get really painful, and I was like,
we're both super tired.
I'm exhausted, and Jason was like falling asleep. And so we got to our room, and the nurse was like trying to do paperwork with me, and I was like, can I get an epidural over here? And like I basically just like wanted the epidural so that we could just go to sleep and rest, because we needed to regain our strength.
I was like, I think we were both just running on adrenaline.
Yeah.
And I needed a breaky poo.
Yeah. And so I was like, they were like, you should take the nitrous oxide. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't know.
No, they wanted to give you
They want to give me nitrous oxide.
No, they wanted to give you that other thing. What's that drug?
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl. Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. I'm sorry. I didn't want fentanyl.
Because they discouraged nitrous
me
because of COVID.
Oh, yeah. And they also was kind of discouraging me from getting an epidural. I don't know why. I was like, how many centimeters dilated? I was like 6.
5, I thought it was. 5 or 6.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't remember now. But anyways. So the nurse is like trying to do this paperwork, and I'm like, can you please order the epidural? And so finally she's like, okay, fine, I will. And I just felt like I need to ask for it now, because at the rate everything is going, it's so slow. It's going to be super late before I get it. So we ordered it at like, I don't know. I think at 4. I didn't even get it until 5:30. So by that time it was like the contractions were really painful. I was very tired. So basically after that, it was like smooth sailing. I just kind of slept. Jason slept.
I actually worked.
I thought you slept.
No, I mean I slept, but then during the day, like, I did some freelance work on the side.
Have him suck your pinky. He loves that.
You want some pinky time?
Okay, so I labored with the epidural. I wasn't progressing like they thought, and so I had to get Pitocin, which I originally didn't want to get, but since I had the epidural already, it was like fine. Oh my gosh, Margot, go over there. She's just like has to be in the center of everything right now, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got Pitocin, I progressed, and basically like I got the epidural at 5:30 a.m. on my due date, and then I started pushing around 5 o'clock that night. And I honestly had no idea what I was in for. Did you?
No. Yeah, no. I mean, I was obviously nervous, right? Because you're like, all right, this is it. She's going to be pushing, and then it could be any minute now, you know?
I have to say, like, I wasn't worried and I wasn't nervous because I thought, I have an epidural. Like, I'm not going to feel anything. Well, the way that they do epidurals at the hospital we were at is they give you just enough so that you can still feel the pressure of the contractions, but like not the pain. I mean, there's no exact science, but they try to give you the right dose so that that's how it is. And so I was feeling the pressure of the contractions and I was pushing, but like, I think an hour into pushing, I was like, okay, I'll have him out by like 2 hours. And then 2 hours go by and I'm starting to get really tired and he's like still like, you couldn't even see any part of the head.
Yeah.
It was like he was still really high. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. So he was sunny side up. So they're like, well, this baby's sunny side up. He's supposed to be facing down, but he's facing up. You can still deliver him, but it's gonna be harder. So I was like, okay, flip this guy. And so they brought in this
doctor. I called him Flapjack.
Yeah. No, I was like, did they call you in specifically to flip my child because you're really good at it? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, how many babies have you flipped? And he's like, hundreds. So anyways, he's like, you're going to feel some pressure here. And apparently I find out afterwards that he literally had to stick his whole hand in my vagina to flip the baby. And I was like, yeah, I definitely feel pressure.
Yeah.
But, so anyways, that was like...
So many hands inside.
So many hands in there. Okay, so he flipped Monty, and then I started pushing more. Another hour goes by, so I've been pushing for 3 hours now, and I think at this point I had been crying.
Yeah.
I was like...
Between pushes.
Between pushes. I was just so tired and exhausted, and it hurt. It was starting to really hurt. I think the epidural was like wearing off, like it wasn't working the way that it should have been, and I started feeling the pain of the contractions. And so in between the contractions, I was just like tense, and I didn't realize I was tense, but I was just like kind of just like panicking inside, like, why isn't he coming out? Like, I'm pushing the way I'm supposed to be pushing. The doctors are telling me I'm pushing correctly, and like I'm not making any progress. And Jason was like, you know, coaching me like the whole time, standing next to my bed. And like, what were you thinking?
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
Well, I was getting a little concerned because I had a feeling like you could push harder. I was feeling like she can push harder. I think she needs to push harder. But it was really painful. I didn't think you expected it. You expected yourself to feel that much pain. And then in between pushes, it didn't seem like you were resting, really. And so I think my encouragement was to get you to push as hard and long as you could during those contractions, and then to try to rest as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then it kind of came down to where a bunch of like 4 doctors all came in at one time, and they were like, what's going on here? And then had kind of recommended to Erica, they were like, well, you're having difficulty, and we want to try the vacuum, but you're not far enough along.
Yeah. So they're like, we can use the forceps, but you were at risk for 4th or 5th degree tears, and that scared me.
Them 4 snips.
Because I heard actually today from my friend that if you get like a 4th or 5th degree tear, you have to like do physical therapy for like a year afterwards. Like it's really it's really like not even something you want to like mess with. So thankfully I was like, let me like try pushing for 5 more times before we like do that. And so anyways, I was so thankful for Jason, because I was telling him like there's literally been nothing else in my life where like I couldn't take a break or quit or depend on someone else for help. It was literally just like me, myself, and I having to...
And your baby.
And yeah, but it was like...
He was getting tired too.
I know, he was getting tired. He was probably trapped in that birth canal, like, his face all squished. But his heart rate, thankfully, was like totally fine. Praise God. But I was just like desperate in those moments. Like, I can't quit right now. Like, I can't take a break right now. Like, I am completely exhausted and like have nothing left. And I have to do this. Like, I have to. And that was like a very crazy feeling of just like feeling trapped and like panicked, and like I don't even know what I would have done without Jason. Like, he basically came in like the final hour and reminded me of my hypnobirthing visions, because I was doing a hypnobirthing app like a couple weeks leading up to it. And I just shared with him how in the hypnosis, the woman like talks you through relaxing your entire body and like visualizing yourself in like a place that's like calm and peaceful. And so for me, it was like being in the bottom of a boat, just laying there and floating out on a lake. And so yeah, so you came in and he remembered that part.
And so between pushes, I would try to bring her back to that spot. And you could see her body and her pushing just changed, because she was actually getting rest in between pushes. Like, she was like, before she would be like wincing in pain and just breathing deeply and heavily and crying and just like kind of looking in despair. And so when she came to push, it was almost like she couldn't give it her all.
Yeah.
And then when she got to those places where she was fully relaxed, she would almost like die and then wake up and push as hard as she could.
Yeah. I was just like shutting out everything and everyone, and bless you. And then so I was just like so thankful, because after Jason started leading me through that visualization of relaxation in the boat on the lake. Basically I was able to push with so much more strength and like got him down. And so a bunch of nurses that had left that came back in were like, oh my gosh, like you made so much progress. Like his head is like right here. You could push this baby out yourself. And I was like so relieved, because I was praying for supernatural strength to get through it, because I like had nothing left to give, I felt like. And so, anyways, so we basically had the baby, and the next, like in the last half hour, so I pushed for 4 hours before he was born. Yeah. He was born at 9
And he was a vacuum baby.
Yeah, and so they did offer me to do the vacuum, which I was like, yes, please, because any sort of like help from anything outside of myself, I was like, yes, I need it. So he came out so beautiful. And tell him what happened when he came out. When you saw the head.
What do you mean?
When you saw the head.
She was pushing. I'm like, the head doesn't seem that big. You got this. It's okay. And then when the head came out, I was like, oh my God. It's like, you just see this whole like human baby face. You're like, what? Like crazy. Purple and crazy. And like, he's huge.
Yeah. And apparently his head is in the 98th percentile, which all the nurses were like, that's why you had such a hard time pushing. Yeah. But, and he came out 8 pounds, 2 ounces and 21 and a half inches long.
21 and a quarter.
21 and a quarter inches long.
Yeah.
Basically, once his head came out, apparently, what did I say?
You're like, get it out of me!
Get it out! And then the rest of his body came out, but the cord was like all tangled around it. But anyways, it was really painful. Like I had never planned on doing it naturally. I never wanted to. I wanted to labor as long as I could, but I knew ultimately like I would get the epidural for pushing. So I think it's kind of ironic that the labor I felt like was like the easy part, and then the pushing, like I was expecting the labor to be the hard part and then the pushing to be the easy part, and it was just like completely opposite. So anyways, like I could feel them, like the needle going in when they were stitching me up, because I got a 2nd-degree tear. And I was just like, I literally felt like people just had their hands inside my vagina prying it open like this.
Because they did.
Yeah. And so by the time he was out and they were stitching me up down there, I was just like, can you guys just get out of my vagina? Like, just go away. Like, I'm so done with people having their hands down there. I just wanted to be like left alone with my family. Look how peaceful he is now. You're rocking him to sleep. Anyways, so after that, the recovery was like pretty intense. I felt like I got hit by a car, and like I've had to be in bed for a couple days, which I never knew that the recovery was that bad. But I feel like, I mean, I was like walking around after, like when we got home, we tried to go, I wanted to go outside and I wanted to go to the park. So I just kind of like walk slowly into the car and then out to the park. And
yeah, I mean, it's 3 weeks and you're, you know, walking longer distances and stuff, so. Yeah.
So, anyways, I think the birth stories are crazy. I literally had no idea what was in store for me. After talking to some people that have had epidurals, like my sister, she was like, your epidural definitely didn't work. She said that she's had them and she hasn't felt anything. So I'm curious to know what you guys, if you guys have had experiences, if you had an epidural, if you felt anything when you were pushing, or not. That's like very interesting to me. And I have so much respect now for women who do this naturally, and just for all women in general. I think like we're so amazing and like so powerful, and like
What about dads though?
It's just,
you know?
I know dads are awesome too. But like, I couldn't believe that, like this thing that I had seen so many women do and go through in their lives, like birthing children into this world, like it was no big deal. And then I went through it and I realized like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. Like this is literally insane. Like that he came out of my vagina. It's just like crazy to me. And look, he weighs like 8 pounds, probably 16 ounces now.
He probably weighs 10 pounds now.
No.
He almost weighed 9 pounds last week.
Oh, at last week, yeah, he weighed almost 9 pounds. So he's like not even that much bigger than he was when I pushed him out, which is insane to think about. Yeah. But anyways, just wanted to share really quick that like I think it's really important to like honor whatever feelings and experience that you have like during your birthing process, and like allow yourself to feel those emotions, because for me, I felt like the whole pushing thing was like very traumatic, and I needed to like let that trauma out, and I needed to process it, and I needed to cry and to cry it out. And so I had a couple moments where
on the ride home specifically, she started weeping.
The ride home in the car, and he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I just need to cry. Like that was like the craziest thing I've ever been through in my entire life, and I don't want that trauma to stay stuck in my body and then manifest as like depression or something later. Like I wanted to process it, and then you know, you had your own way of processing too.
Yeah, because it felt like for 3 days I was like taking care of her, making sure that she was like being her cheerleader and coach, and making sure she's got everything she needs. And then after, because she's just wiped out, like I was taking care of him, like changing diapers, putting him to sleep, swaddling him, and bringing him to her, driving her home, getting everything kind of ready. And as soon as she kind of got better, was like walking around, there was something in my body that was like, I feel like I just need to cry. And I just like went to the bathroom and just started bawling, like, ugh. But it was so good. It was like, man, it's a traumatic situation for both people, you know? Like, I know for you it's a lot harder, obviously, but there is a lot in the room where you're like, I don't know what's going on. Like, everything's happening so fast. And just like the joy of it all, and the pain of it all, and the tears of it all. Like, it's a whole mix of emotions that I feel like was just a lot. It's a lot for anyone to process, and I don't know, it felt good to just be able to release that, you know? Totally.
I think that it shows so much strength as a human, especially as a man, to be able to feel your emotions and to be able to allow yourself to be vulnerable and process that stuff. So to me, that's always like really been an attractive quality about Jason. But yeah, he's just been an amazing support and husband and dad during this time. It's been so great to see him with little Monty. We love him so much.
Little Montucky.
And then if you guys don't know, Monty's name is actually Montana, and his middle name is Elliot. So Montana means mountain of joy, and Elliot means
like holy.
Yeah, consecrated.
So he's a holy mountain.
Yeah, he's a holy mountain.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wanted a name that was like unique and special, and we both really liked that name, and it just fit. Yeah. And also Jason said he was as big as a mountain when he came out.
I just wasn't expecting him to be as big. Yeah, just like that was in there. Okay.
So anyways, wanted to share our story with you guys. Thank you so much for watching and just for being with us on this journey. And yeah, stay tuned for more baby family stuff. Bye.
Bye.